Hello everyone, just doing a quick little vlog video, weird way I've said that. Basically I'm about to have surgery tomorrow morning, like it's almost 9 p.m. here, and I'm going in for admission at 8 a.m. As quite a few of the people who would watch my channel or come to my streams know, I've been dealing with issues with a hernia in my C5, C6 disc for, I think we're about to hit the 15th. Yeah, we've just hit the 15-month mark. I did a hernia. Oh, I did a hernia. I herniated a disc on the 2nd of December in 2021. I was watercoloring of all things. I had been doing some other things that were quite, busy and, lifting of heavy things and such. So it probably contributed, but it was most definitely the watercoloring because, I was at this desk, but I didn't realize that you could actually have it lifted. It was my first real couple of times trying watercoloring, and I was doing it flat and I was bending over and I noticed my neck was a bit stiff, but I was like, oh, maybe I just need to get used to this position because I've not really been in it. And then the following, which day was that? Because we're talking that happened on the 2nd. On the 3rd, my entire arm went on fire. And I woke up being like, this isn't right. Something's really wrong going on because I've got pain all the way from my shoulder down to my hand. I went to see a local GP, not my usual GP because she wasn't there. It was the weekend. The guy that I went and saw, he was one of the older doctors, and I said, well, I've got this pain. I know I've had a bit of an ache in my neck. I think possibly I might have pinched a nerve, which herniated discs tend to pinch nerves. And we went through and did flexibility tests and strength tests, and he just came out going, you can't have a pinched nerve because you're stronger than me. And then the next day, I lost feeling in both of these fingers. Well, actually, that day I lost in my entire hand, but I recovered it mostly. But it went so numb that I couldn't feel. The only thing I could feel was this white hot pain that was just running through my entire hand and was making my hand do this. It was like the claw. And so I went to the emergency department that day, obviously, because I was just this entire arm just hurts, and now this is seized up and it's just screaming and it's gone numb. I can't actually feel anything when I touch it. They basically went, we'll check you out because I've got the clotting gene, which is basically my blood clots more easier. That they wanted to check me for any blood clots, which they passed, and then they just basically said, go see your GP. Went and saw my proper GP. She got me referred for an MRI, and that's when they found out that I had a herniated disc. I do have private health insurance, but as most people in my age bracket, you tend to have either the lower one or the mid tier. You don't have the high ranking one. And unfortunately, the surgery that I require, even though it's considered, routine to the surgeons, it's to the insurance companies, it ranks right up there because it's got at least 3 days hospital stay in it. Or 2 to 3 days hospital stay in it. So they basically went, nah, if you still have this problem in April 2023, because I moved up to the higher package, we'll fix that for you. So I went and applied for public. The first one I applied for put me on their routine list, and I was kind of based on, at that point, I wasn't really being able to work. But they put me on their routine list, and they basically said the routine list could be anything between 2 to 6 years. And I was just I don't understand. I went back to the private surgeon that had said that he would do the surgery if my health insurance would pay for it. But what he was able to work out for me was a steroid block, which I had done a year ago now. So that was in the February. I didn't think it had really worked. I think, though, that was because they also scratched my eye. at the same time. Um, Basically, because they have to get you face down to, like, they do a special X-ray. No, it's an X-ray. It's a PET scan, I think, or a CAT scan. It's one of the scans that they, you know, have to inject something in there first, to like work out where the nerves are and all that. But they had me face down. But because of COVID, they instead had this hard plastic pillow. I honestly thought I was going to die, but I was also on heavy sedation. So when the plastic pillow just sliced through my eye, I did not feel it. I did not feel it at all. I didn't know anything had happened until the next day when I couldn't open this eye and went back to the emergency department. And the same, I remember the same, what's it called? Had the same nurse who was just like, "What the hell are you doing back here?" So yeah, from there, the steroid block definitely calmed a lot of this down, and so I got back to work. I'd been working from home, like, half days at that point, because I was just like, this whole thing just hurts too much to really use a mouse or keyboard. So I was like, it didn't really feel like it made everything go away, but it calmed everything down that I could manage. But they still wanted me back in the office every single day, and I cannot drive that far anymore. Not without taking half an hour breaks every 15 minutes. At least, no, that was before that calmed down. So I can now do like 30 to 45 minutes driving without needing to, needing to stop. But certainly the few times at my new work, because I changed jobs because of them wanting me in every day, because the new place only wanted me in 2 to 3 days a week. And I was able to say which days I was going to do that, so I could break it all up. And for those, I was able to drive to the local train station, which, again, when I say local, it's a 40-minute drive, and then get on a train to my end location, whereas the other place I needed to drive from home to work the distance of, we worked out, a friend of mine who lives in Scotland, we worked out it was the distance of Glasgow to Edinburgh there, and then, so I was doing that distance twice a day. So I was not able to do that anymore. But the new place is great. The little bit of walking's been helpful because I was basically not really able to exercise, and haven't really been able to exercise since I did this, but being able to be like, well, I have to walk from here to here. It at least does something in terms of fitness. But yes, I've just been managing like that. The steroid block, I reckon, stopped about 3 weeks ago. Like, at least that's what my theory is, because everything just hurts again. It's not quite as intense as previously, because when I had another MRI for the pre-surgery for what's happening, they said actually the original hernia, that like the distance it had spread out had actually shrunk a little bit. So it is a little bit better. It's not great. But yeah, so I can do a little bit. I've got this compression glove, as you can see, that I customized a little bit for myself. I've got the other one as well, that has a bigger flower on this side. But I don't have any problems with this side, so I don't really wear it. But the reason why I did that was because I was visiting someone who has the same gloves. So it's just like, at least, because they have large gloves and I have small gloves because I have tiny, small hands, for considering how big a person I am. But yeah, so like I had the MRI. The MRI said it was a bit better. But about 3 weeks ago, everything just kind of started blowing back up again with pain. I haven't really slept more than 3 to 4 hours a night for the last 3 weeks. I sometimes get a little bit more sleep if I've, like, what's it called? If I nap during the day, just because I'm so exhausted that my body just goes, yeah. And, generally at those points I'm, sitting upright in a recliner, or I recently bought a cushion for post-surgery, because, like, I will be sitting up in bed. So it's like a wedge pillow. So sometimes I get on that when it's been particularly bad. But as you can see, I am currently about to have a flare-up. Yeah, so I think the other thing is that I've noticed in the last 3 weeks is that all the muscles in this arm have finally atrophied. which is something that should have probably happened a while ago, but maybe I don't know how stereo blocks work. Maybe that kind of held it off a bit. Because like, as much as, I can go like, I haven't really exercised either arm for that time. This arm still has a lot of like, there's muscle under there. There's something under the flesh. This side, it's just squishy and jelly. And my finger goes right in. There's nothing there. So, like, whereas this hand it's stiff. Like, I can't get it any thinner than that. This one, it's disturbing. It feels like an old lady's arm, if the old lady just happened to have a lot of flesh on her. And like, this is going to be a bit weird, but like, what's it called? If I curl my bicep, you can see that this actually comes up, and on this side, that's the same level of intensity. Nothing's coming up. There's nothing there. So yeah, so I think like the main reason why I was doing this, because a lot of the videos that I've been watching for this, we'll go through that in a second. But a lot of the videos that I've watched of people doing this, they're either older than me, or, have had their surgery a lot sooner than I have. Whereas like most of them say like, I think the longest I saw out of the ones I'd seen was like 5 months. I'm 15 months. So like, what's that called? As I was saying, I'm, the other hospital that I applied for, routine, 2 to 6 years. Couldn't do that. I actually ended up going to hospital in June, in emergency again, because, I actually got sciatica. Apparently this is a thing that sometimes happens when you have this condition for like, a hernia in your neck, upper neck. You tend to get like a sympathetic one below, where it's just, you're holding yourself strange, and it just kind of triggers it off a little bit. So I ended up with a light case of sciatica, which I had for like 2 to 6 weeks. But when I was at that hospital, and I, like the surgeon not the surgeon, the emergency doctor who saw me there was just kind of like, have you thought about getting the hernia fixed? And I said, well, I applied, but they said it was going to be a 2 to 6 year wait. And then he said, oh, what about this other hospital? I said, literally this entire time that we've been going through talking about this, no one has mentioned that this other hospital does neurosurgery, because I need a hospital that does neurosurgery. And most of the ones in my area, because it's going to make me sound like a bit of a rural hick. We're quite a far away from everywhere. We used to live in middle of Melbourne. Well, not the middle of Melbourne, but, we used to live in the suburbs of Melbourne. And, we ended up moving all the way down to the bottom of Australia in a way. We are on the coastline. So as much as, we are only, I think, an hour and a half officially away from the middle of the city, just like there are no bulk billing hospitals, not bulk billing, we got a bulk billing hospital. There are no bulk billing doctors down here anymore. Everything is private, which kind of sucks for me because I have to go to the doctor's lot to get, medication. And so it's like every time I go to get my medication, I pay another $80. Sure, I get $40 of it, bucks of it back from Medicare, but then I go and spend that $40 on my medication. So I'm still paying $80 every 2 weeks. Hopefully that's now ending. But where was I? So yes, so the other hospital, they said, yep, you're urgent. And I was like, oh, like urgent for, being checked up about, and having a phone call at least. And I was like, perfect, because I don't understand why the other hospital said I was routine, because even by their own, like every hospital has triage requirements, and you can look at them on their website about, like, because it's supposed to be guidelines for doctors about, like, kind of like, when to refer someone and when not to refer someone. And so by their own by their own rules for triage, I was in urgent, what's that called, assessment, and they put me in routine. Still don't get it. Baffling. But yeah, so I had the urgent follow-up. They said, well, because it's not stopping you from working at that time, that you get put in the semi-urgents to be fixed. So that's, 2 to 3 months. Now that was in, when was that? That was mid-July. And so they said, it was going to be any time between the 2nd of September and the 2nd of November. Now you'll notice we're in February 2023 instead of, November 2022. And I mean, to be slightly fair to them, I did go away for 2 weeks at the end of October, because at that point I was like, if they're not going to do me now, they're going to do me like, after I get back. I went away for 2 weeks and I really needed to. I hadn't been anywhere since 2019 and I really wanted to go see my best friend and, just forget everything for 2 weeks. And actually, literally, as I was going to the airport, they called me and said, do you want to come in for your pre-administration appointment? And I was just like, I would love to, but as I called up to say this is happening, I said I wasn't available. We'll get to that. But yeah, so they literally scheduled me the appointment a day after I got back. Well, the day after I got back, because jet lag day. But, so I got the assessment, went through all that. Everything was signed off. They said, we're going to give you your surgical date in a week's time. That, you'll know when your surgery is and everything will get scheduled then. And then they called me. They were already late by a week at that point. And I was like, I do know that, the public system's kind of slammed at the moment, so I'm not going to press them. I know that they're the ones doing me the big favor at this point. Fixing my health as it's supposed to be, according to the, the health system. But I was like, I understand. I've worked in hospitals in bookings departments. I get it. There's lots of people trying to get things done. But then they called me after I had, called again and again to say, hey, I know it's been a little bit longer than you told me it was going to be, but could, someone let me know exactly what's happening? Especially because the day after I hadn't heard from them, I got a letter from them in the mail saying, hey, do you still want the surgery? And I'm just like, I've been literally waiting for a surgical date. Well, how can you send me a letter that, saying, hey, do you still want the surgery? So I finally got a call back because I complained about the letter. And she just outright, when I was just saying, oh, it's funny, I got this letter, blah, blah, blah. And then she said, because you're not having the surgery this year. And I went, well, I mean, I know that we're in late November now. Or I think it was around the 1st of December. But, I was like, they'd said, you're going to get your surgery, 1 or 2 weeks before Christmas. And she just said, oh, sorry. A new case came in. We had to fully, you couldn't have your appointment. So you're going to have to now wait until February. And I was just like, okay, that sucks. But because she'd told me that it was just me that was getting rescheduled, that it made me feel like I wasn't important enough, and that, all this pain I've been going through for the past year and a bit didn't matter. And I fully broke down for 3 days. I actually called them during work, and my employers just looked at me in a second, just went, no, you go home. That this is not a small thing. That this sucks. This absolutely sucks. We can't fix it for you, but we can at least send you home with getting paid for the rest of the day. And I was like, thank you. And then, had the fun thing of then getting on a train in the wrong direction going home, and then having to double back. And it was just a whole thing. I was a mess. And then I found out, the day after I kind of, was feeling all right again, that they had actually cancelled surgery for the entire hospital for, I think, 2 weeks. It was just if you had led with that rather than saying you were not important enough to, be scheduled in, I wouldn't have broken down. I would have just been like, that sucks. And, moved on with it. So, and then, so that, I was like, all right, I'm not going to hear anything until end of January. Because, in Australia, well, I'm pretty sure it's everywhere, but, all the surgeons go away after Christmas. Because they, they want to go have fun after Christmas. And I get it, they're probably burnt out as well. But we got to the end of January, hadn't heard anything, and, that's when this whole arm thing started up. They had called me, the 2 days before the arm really got bad, and I said I had to go, and I went and saw my doctor. but they had called me and just been like, we're just doing a quick phone assessment, how is everything going, blah 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 blah. And I went through all my new symptoms since the last time I spoke to them, because again, I'm going to tell you what the whole kit and caboodle for me at the moment is, because there are some fucking weird ones. But she'd said, oh, it's going to get reassessed, you sound pretty urgent, so you'll happen next week or two. They didn't say anything to me. They ghosted me again. I decided I wasn't just going to call, because one of the things she had said, if you get worse, go see your GP and they'll write an urgent letter. So this all kind of kicked off when I said I had new symptoms, because like the arm pain, things had settled down. I was like, I can wait a little bit longer. When the arm pain came back, I basically went, nah, I can't, because I can't even lie down in a position. Like, for one thing, I used to be someone that, prefers sleeping on their front. I can't, if I bend forward, the entire arm burns. And, the pain just keeps increasing until I can't stand it anymore. Makes it very difficult if I drop something underneath the other side of my bed and I have to try and pull it out. So it's basically like, you do everything quickly. Where was I up to? So yeah, that had kicked off, went and saw my GP, basically said everything I'd said to that woman, and then added in, the hurt, I've got the fire in my arm again. It's making it hard to use a mouse. I'm still working, but I have slowed down. Like, say for example, I would probably be the fastest person in a certain task at work. And if most people get 20 of them done in a day, I get 80 of them done in a day. It is my main task, so I am bound to, get a bit more. But even when it's my main task, I have now slowed down to 30 a day. And it was kind of just getting to the point where they were going, not anyone said anything, because they fully understand what's going on. They're very supportive of what it is. But it was very much like, well, your surgery is going to come out. Can you train some other people? And then, you don't have to do as much, because you'll be supporting the people that are learning your task. So I was like, okay, good, I can do that, especially since they're going to be doing this while I'm away, which hopefully is only going to be a couple of days. There's going to be the surgery and the relaxation part of that. But I think I'm hoping to only keep the excess after the hospital visit down to 2 days, which will be, the week and the weekend. And then I should be back to work by Monday. Where was I at? Yes. So, doctor wrote a letter that went in. 2 days later, I was like, oh, text message from the hospital. But it was them just saying they had received it. So obviously they've been receiving a lot of letters enough that it's taking at least 2 days for them to actually read the letters before actioning them, which is kind of like, I get it. Again, I worked in outpatients. I did this kind of work before. We generally had a 1 day turnaround, but again, we were also a public hospital, but we were much more specialized, because it was eye, ears and throat, as opposed to absolutely everything. So then they called the next day saying, hey, we got your letter. We agree you're urgent now. You're scheduled in. Here's the date, and the date's tomorrow. This was a week and a bit ago. So I was really happy for that. And, literally all my coworkers are over the moon that this is happening. Because we're quite a little tight-knit community. And, but yeah, so that's kind of the story now. I did get a funny thing on Thursday, because I got a text message saying they had scheduled an outpatient's appointment for me at the same time as me having the surgery. And I think that was from the phone call that I had in at the very end of January with the nurse that was saying, if we can't get you into surgery, we'll get you to see outpatients, so that someone at least sees you and sees if they can do anything for you in the meantime. So I think that that part didn't get cancelled, and they didn't realize the surgery had been done at the same time. So it kind of makes me think that whoever was booking me in didn't see if there was anything else scheduled for me. So that's been sorted. Had a good chuckle with the person in outpatients for that, because I was like, oh yeah, I know, I've worked this type of stuff myself. But the funniest thing was because I ended up speaking to 2 people about it. the first person was like, do you think you'd be up for the appointment? And I was like, the time that I'm scheduled in is probably when I'm going to be under for the surgery. Can I take the phone call? I don't think so. Anyway, so that's all happening tomorrow morning. Just basically because, again, all the people I've seen talk about this, most of them just said they had some numbness. Some of them said a little bit of pain. I've got a whole kit and caboodle. Again, that's probably because I'm now in long nerve. Sorry, what's the phrase for it? Long-term nerve damage. Thank you. Sorry. I also have dyslexia, so sometimes my words get a bit tangled. Possibly also ADHD, but dyslexia is definitely confirmed. But so at the moment, as you can see just through talking, I have a pain right here it's kind of like half armpit, half boob, but that's because the nerve travels underneath the armpit before coming into the arm, which is, stuff I didn't know before all this happened. I've got neck pain on both sides, although mostly on the right, because where my hernia is, it is spilling more out onto my right than my left. It's funny, like the pain that I have on my left side is mostly just the shoulder blade. It just gets a bit achy, but there's been no ill effects on this arm at all. If I'm suffering in a certain amount of pain, these fingers in the middle all sort of move. I mean, it doesn't move as much so the drugs I'm on at the moment is an anticonvulsant, so that seems to have settled the tremor a bit. And as you can see, they're just little shakies by themselves. There's no controlling that for me at all. I mean, I can control them. Like I said, I've got no feeling in these two fingers at all. I used to have feeling right in the tip of this one for some reason, but the only pain sensation it was feeling was pain. So I used to wear this nail really long. I cut it recently. My nails are still pretty long for most people, but yeah. So it is kind of weird getting used to things being like, well, I have no feeling in these, but I trust that from the feeling of sensation of my other fingers that these fingers are doing what they're supposed to. When it first happened, I kind of didn't have feeling in this one as well on the underside, but that's came back. The glove just kind of stops it from actively aching all the time. It's just like the compression seems to help. But that said, because I have Leiden factor 5, which is the blood clotting gene, is this a good time to show? It's not quite. But you might see that I have some extra creases on my hand. That's from the gloves because it's actually causing imprints on my skin. And the deeper the imprint, as in the longer it stays there, the deeper the imprint, and it just builds and builds and builds, and then I realize I need to take it off. I also was having neuro itch. No, what's it called? I think some people just call it neuro itch, but it's basically where you've got patches on your skin, on the affected line down the nerve, that just itch, and there's no resolution to the itch. It's not like, something's bitchy and you're it's agitated and you keep rubbing at it, and eventually you'll get the be like, oh yes, I'm getting rid of the itch, isn't that great? But particularly in this part here, I was just especially because that's where the glove just kept pushing on, it seems to have calmed down a little bit. Where is it? It's got a little bit of it still here, but I know because it builds as I touch it, but it just continually felt itchy. And then when I was reading about it, apparently some woman, after she had shingles, she had it on the back of her head and scratched through her scalp, and somehow her bone was scratching on her brain. And I know that sounds crazy, but it was a medical journal I was reading it off, and I was just like, yikes. So yeah. I cut all my nails at that point. But yeah, so general aching. These two fingers are the worst, especially if I've been clicking. So I've got two mice on here because sometimes one's not one triggers more than the other because there's no rhyme and reason depending on. So this is my main mouse. I've got the Logitech Master 3. So this one's a flat mouse. But then I also have the ergonomic lift, and so that one seemed to help as well. But I found from time to time this one actually kind of made these two burn a bit more because the fingers are further apart. I don't know why it is about the fingers being further apart, because like when I'm typing, my fingers are closer together, so they don't hurt as much. But as you know, all mice have a split in them because of the middle mouse scroll bar. But so it just depends on which angle feels better for my hand at any given time. I have pain here. Obviously, it's not as bad as it used to be because I've been treating it actively every single day. But my psoriasis everywhere has gotten worse because the entire body is fighting the stress, and so it just occasionally pops up in a brand new spot, just being like, "Hey," just being like, "Why here?" No reason. Where was I at? Yes, so pain here, especially if I've been typing or doing something with this, it just starts aching, and it will ache specifically right in here, where the nerve travels down. And if that one starts hurting, it also starts hurting across here as well, and then it eventually moves up here. It's basically the more I use my fingers down here and trigger some sort of pain here, it just travels up my arm, which again is crazy because the main problem isn't in my arm, it's in my neck. My GP was kind of like, well, maybe you've also got carpal tunnel. But then, she also then tested all the points that, you tend to press to test for carpal tunnel, and I had no reaction. So they basically just said, look, we know the hernia is the main problem here. Like, that's why you've got limited feeling across the entire arm. You get the red hot fire because that's nerve pain. Oh, my neck. And that's something I won't be able to do for a while. But the fact that it seems to like this kind of triggers more up my arm is just, they'll probably have to do some tests afterwards. It might even be from the muscle atrophy, that there's just nothing there, and the more I use it, the more it goes, I've got less to use, so I'm going to scream. But we'll see. The things I do know about the muscle atrophy, pardon me, I have to keep poking the one that keeps hurting, which is underneath my armpit, which just looks uncomfortable. I didn't even tell you about the other weird one. So the neuro itch was weird. The other one that I have actually pretty much all the time now, and I've kind of gotten really used to, is I have the sensation of a third arm or wing coming out of the back of my shoulder blade. And I'm pretty sure it's a phantom arm because like it feels like it's moving when this arm's moving. But and it's really weird to say I got used to a phantom arm. It was just, it was really baffling the first time I felt it, but now it's just kind of like, oh yeah, that's just what my phantom arm's doing. The only reason why I sometimes call it a wing is just because the placement of it would be that, like if you imagine X-Men, what's his name, Archangel, he had wings coming out of there. Any sort of, fantasy TV show where they have wings is coming out of that specific spot. So my third arm / wing. But, yeah, where was I? I don't know. Yeah, so I've been in a lot of pain. I've basically just been dealing with it. I still have been streaming because I know this is probably going to be confusing for those who don't know who I am, but I tend to do a lot of gaming, but we've been playing a lot of Wii Sports Resort because you can play that all one-handed. But the fact that most of the other stuff I tend to do is point-and-click games does tend to make things a bit easier because you can take those at your own time. There's no real rush. We have still been playing Fortnite, and I just let my brain take over in that instance and then afterwards go, ow. Because I'm not going to miss out on fun. But yeah, so what I've been told and what I have gathered from some of these videos is that I'll have the surgery done. When I wake up, I probably won't have active nerve pain because the nerves have been damaged for so long. I'm still probably going to have some sort of nerve pain, and that will, go over time. I might have different things in terms of like, rather than things feeling numb, they'll start tingling instead. But I don't know, sometimes when people say tingling, I'm just wondering if that's what I consider the white hot pain, because it feels like it's burning. It's like a sparkler. And if that's what they're considering tingling, oh boy, this is like up to a 12 then. Because again, like, sparkler. Like, imagine your fingers are a sparkler going off. And yeah, so hopefully most of that pain will be gone by the time I wake up from the surgery. I should have, well, what I've been told, I'm going to have a lot more pain along here and across my back. Just because, one, surgery, they're basically dealing with everything in this area. The incision's actually going to be at the front because the way that the spine is built up at the back makes it very difficult to pull things out that way. It's much easier to pull it out the front, even though they have to move everything around. About less said about that's better, I think, for some people. But where was I? I was over here. But yeah, so I should be in hospital for, I'll be definitely there overnight. Whether or not I go home the next day or the day after depends on how quickly I recover. From what I know is because, like, what they're going to do is they're going to take out the actual disc itself and replace it with either a cadaver bone or I think it's like a metal cage. And when I say metal cage, it's not like a huge, massive thing. It's just like something that, in between. There generally is a bracket on this side, on this side of my neck instead of the back side, that has some screws in it, and that's actually going to sit against my esophagus. So I'm being told, well, not being told, what I gather is that, one, swallowing is generally quite difficult for the first couple of days, and that's because you are learning how to swallow again with the timing. I could bring out, what's it called, the Microsoft's Magic School Bus. When I say Microsoft, I mean, like, the game version of inside the human body, because they talk about the esophagus and you've got like a thing in your throat that releases food, like it does the timing, like it covers up your windpipe and lets the food go down the right hole. So everything needs to learn how to retime itself. So that's going to be interesting. It's also something, I think it was like 5 to 10, maybe it was 10 to 15% of your voice changing, because they're moving around your vocal cords. Your vocal cords can get agitated. Sometimes this is temporary. Sometimes this is permanent. We will see. But yeah, really, I'd kind of like for the nerve pain to go. I also understand that I'm not going to be able to drive for a while, whether or not this is just like a month and a half, to all the way to 3 months, because 3 months would suck. Because I own, like, what's it called? My mother would take me to the train station at a certain point. Obviously, for the first couple of weeks, I will not be allowed to, just because, one, it's probably not great for me to be left alone to my own devices. Can you imagine and be like, yeah, I'm still sitting here with this gigantic collar and, there's an active wound behind it, but I'm just going to sit around the train. I'm sure nothing's going to go wrong. Oh my God. I've just remembered. So, because I've had this for so long, I've had so many like little incidents along the way. One of them was I got tripped coming off a tram by an old lady. So I broke my, I have some things on my left side. So as part of the sciatica, it just kind of felt useful to me to start using my cane from those surgeries again. And so like I've been leaning on it a lot. And just this one day, this old lady, either she didn't see me, she never said. She apologized, and I was just really like just wanting to get back up and get to work, because I was like 2 minutes away from work. I was coming off. It was my right away. But she kicked the cane. I fell down. I managed to, well, I didn't fall down. I fell against the tram, because like the moment I felt that I was moving, I was just like, just gonna throw myself this way. But I gave myself whiplash. So, imagine if I did that with a neck incision. No. So I'm going to be working from home for the next couple of weeks. Works fine with that. They're just more hoping that when I get back to work, I will be back at my usual speed, which I should be, because like even if like it doesn't fully solve everything, I should at least be able to get to the point where I don't need to wear a glove all the time, or I can at least, click and not feel pain. Because again, like, especially when you're clicking a lot for what, like, you're doing the same repetitive action over and over again, especially if you're trying to do it quickly, like as I usually do, then you tend to use your fingers a lot. Whereas if you're just scrolling around looking at TV, not looking at TV, but, looking at the internet, you can be a bit more leisurely with that. Things get nice and calm. I keep playing with my hair. My hair is quite long. I was tempted and almost went through with it, with cutting it. I mean, like, not fully cutting it, because, like, I mean, for one thing, this is still the colour of my hair after dyeing it in October last year. My hair likes to be blue, and, I think that's amazing. But I was thinking, like, and like I said, I've been growing up for quite a while, but, like, cutting it off here at least, so that, because, like, my hair is curly, so it will bounce up here to about the point where I will have this soft collar. But at least I'm assuming it's a soft collar. But basically I got told when I was mentioning that at the pre-admission by the nurse, she said, no, you'll want to keep it long. I mean, she said she hadn't actually seen this done with anyone that had actually hair long as mine, but, or at least that she could remember. See, that's another reason. I'm having so much difficulty actually dealing with my hair, so my hair just goes down all the time. But she was basically saying, ponytails. Ponytails keep your hair out of the way for soft collars. So, we'll see. I can definitely tell you, like, washing my hair has become, like, one of the most difficult things, especially since the flare-up, just because, like, how much you put your hair into your hand, and if I raise my hand higher than this, then everything kind of triggers off. So, that's where we're at. That's just kind of, I mean, that's probably a lot more detail than a lot of you probably thought, considering that we've been talking for 42 minutes, but it's kind of, a lot has happened. It's been a long time. I'm so tired. But this time tomorrow, I will be in hospital, having hopefully eaten something, because I've only got, I've eaten everything I'm going to eat today, but I need to drink a couple more of these. Just water. I just have it in a pewter glass. Glass? Cup. Mug. Stein. Because the spoils of my parents' divorce. Because I got a pewter stein out of it. But, it's really good. And it's always cold, even though it's summer here. And it's going to be hot next week, so I'm like, oh, fuck. But, especially like when this flares up, and if I don't have the glove nearby or the glove's not helping, I can put my hand on the stein and it's nice and cold. I drop a lot of things, by the way. So I have to be careful about how long I hold this if there's water in it, which there is currently. But because the way that my veins work, I need to drink a lot of water. Otherwise, it gets very difficult to put things in me, like anesthetics. So, yeah, so that's what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my evening, is just drinking a lot of water. I got one of those really big 1 liter bottles, 2 liter bottles. Can't manage it. It's too heavy with my hands. So, what else have I been told about afterwards? I will probably not be lifting or, bend. Yeah, I will definitely not be lifting anything heavier than, like, I think 2 kilos for a while. I do have some 1 and 2 kilo weights. I think they'll probably still say for the first little bit to not. So it's still going to be a couple of weeks of me not doing anything physical. But my plan is afterwards to get back into exercise, because I was, I've had a couple of surgeries over the past year that have, I broke my ankle really badly. That needed several surgeries over the 2.5 years. So I just basically didn't get back to the fitness I wanted to. And then, this happened. So I'm a bit bigger than I want to be. Not as big as it could have been if I had, if I'd just given up and just been like, all right, let's just eat everything to make me happy. But I want to be fit again. I don't want to be thin. I want to be fit. I don't mind being fleshier, bigger. I mean, honestly, it seems genetically that's what I'm predisposed to, but I'd like to be fit. So a couple of sizes down, but fit. I want to be able to do everything, which at the moment I'm barely able to do anything. Like, I have been trying to restructure this room so that I don't have to deal with anything much for the next couple of weeks. And even that has just been like, put everything in a box, try and lift it and move it over here. No, you can't lift it. All right, slide it over here. Then try and use some video game logic to move things on things. I got everything in place that I want to. It's not 100% clean. I mean, like, what's that called? It's just the way of things. That's for later me to deal with. But I'm not going to fall over anything. Nothing's going to be in my way. Only things that I'm actually going to be able to use for the next couple of weeks are here. I mean, like, what's it called? Look, my knitting machines are here as well. But once the pain has gone in my arm, these things are going to be great again. Because I'll be able to knit with just turning a dial. I have it. There we go. I was about to say, like, it does not turn very well. But that's because this direction tends to go a bit more weird, because that's not the direction it goes in. Of course, that falls down the moment I don't want it to. I mean, like, what's it called? So that, like, I have been using that a little bit. I can't use it too much because, again, the more I use my arm. But I have basically been knitting a whole heap of little, at least get in the right direction, like little scarves that will, you know, especially after the first initial bit where I don't have to wear a collar anymore. Something like this is going to be perfect because, like, it's cotton. So it's just, it's loose. It's stretchy. It's cotton, so it's going to breathe because it's still summertime here. So I did those. I find, you know, like, having things on my arm is helpful, so that's probably going to still be the case afterwards. So I, you know, similar cotton, I made some arm warmers that has a little bit of sparkle in it. I also have these in, like, a rainbow yarn. Again, mostly cotton. These ones are technically not 100% cotton because there is that silver thread in there as well that sparkles. But yeah, stuff like that is what I'm kind of trying to, because I'm one of those people that needs to keep doing things with my hands. So it's been very difficult these last 3 weeks because I can't do much. Like, even, like, because I've got a tablet that I'm taking with me to hospital, but there's a tablet that I have that to make it easier on my neck, I actually have it set on a, not with that arm. I've got it set on a, you know, an arm. So it actually hangs over me in bed. So I don't have to, like, strain my neck, turning my head. It's literally right above me. And because of that distance, it feels like it's a TV. But I have to do everything with this hand because if I try and type on the screen, that lying on your back pressing upwards is one of the worst things to trigger me. So just talking about lying in bed just makes me sad because, again, there's no happy position. I'm kind of like I said, I bought this wedge pillow. It's massive. It's so, like, in one way, how do I do it with this arm? In one way, it's like a gentle incline that you can, like, lay down. So it's almost a bit like having a raised head. So that's where I'm hopefully eventually going to be. But the wedge also works in the opposite way. So that if we were saying that this was the wall, it would be like you're sitting in a recliner chair. That's probably where I'm going to be for the next couple of days, except for the first day when I come home. So my mother's got her bedroom downstairs. We have a spare bedroom down there as well that my sister and her child come to stay with when they come to visit us. That's probably where I'll be for the first night at least. Just because, like, you know, with me not having hospital support and my mother's not really great at going upstairs. So it was just like, let's make this easy. First night until I feel confident that I'll be all right to sleep. Let's do this in a place that you can get to me really quickly with, like, you know, a couple of steps. So yeah, so the first night I'll be down there, and then hopefully if I feel confident enough, the next night I'll be up here. During the day, I will probably be up here because, you know, all my stuff is here. My computer is here, you know. My big screen is here. You know, my headset's here. I can talk to people here. My Switch is here. I mean, I was thinking about taking the Switch into hospital with me, but because it's a public one, the letter even says don't bring anything valuable in it. I'm like, I'm bringing my tablet in, but that's because I'll probably be the most, when I'm awake, I will be using that predominantly. So I'm not going to be as concerned with that, because if no one sees it until after the surgery, then we're fine. We're fine. Because I'll be there the entire time, the rest of the time. So yeah, so one risk is all I'm taking. So the thing that I would want to play on the Switch anyway isn't getting an update until the third day of, so I should be back by then. Even if I'm not, it's not going anywhere. It's just available from that date. So yeah, we'll see how I go. So hopefully I don't think I'll be doing a vlog from the hospital, because that would be ridiculous. I might have some shots of me being like, "Here, I'm still alive." But yeah, it's pretty much all we got for the moment. I mean, I've been babbling on for 51 minutes. Hopefully the next check-ins are all going to be pretty quick. Just because I won't have as much to say. I'll be like, I'm in pain, but this doesn't hurt. Hopefully. That's what we're hoping for. And we're hoping that no complications are going to happen. Might have a different voice, but, it might just be husky because things have been had surgery on. We will see. We will see. And yeah, that's all I got for now. Bye-bye.